The Vatican is one of the most interesting places in the world, whether you're religious or not. An independent state within Rome, Italy, the Vatican is home to the historic Vatican Museums, St. Peter's Basilica, and the residence of the Pope himself, the Sistine Chapel. Unique in many ways, the Vatican, or the Vatican City as it's officially known, even has its own economy, supported by donations, museum entrance fees, and even souvenirs from the various gift shops. As well as being stunning on the outside, the insides of the Vatican City's buildings are pretty amazing too. Being such a historic and holy place, many theories and conspiracies surround the Vatican's famous archives. What secrets is the Vatican really hiding? So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 intriguing mysteries surrounding the Vatican. The removal of books. The Bible is composed of lots of different books, such as Genesis, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. It's thought of as a holy, gospel truth by millions around the globe, written by Moses and others around 1000 BC. It tells of Jesus' miracles, from the well-known tale of the Good Samaritan to when he fed the thousands with only 5 loaves and 2 fish. In fact, the Bible is the most printed book in the world, with around 5 billion copies produced. While the Bible and the Christian Church are often associated with the cleansing of sins, honesty, and acting in good faith, many are convinced that the Vatican is hiding secrets. The Bible was translated from Latin to English in the early modern period around the 1600s. However, the original version actually contained more books than present in modern versions. Naturally, people found this a little bit strange. Included in the original book were the Apocrypha books, which made up the end of the Old Testament. The 14 scriptures are known, but they are still yet to be printed in modern-day versions, leaving many to wonder what are the Church hiding. The Vatican supposedly removed these 14 books in the 1680s, but little is known as to why. Some people believe that it was to do with a book titled The Wisdom of Solomon. Solomon was a times. He was meant to be the wisest man ever to live and is thought to be a generally kind and well-managed soul. However, the Wisdom of Solomon presents him as less of an untroubled man. In his book, Solomon predicts great evils and the coming of somebody who is thought to be Jesus. Given Solomon passed away 900 years before Jesus, this theory, for some, is thought to be credible. However, a wise yet crazy guy predicting the coming of Jesus maybe didn't sound right to the Church, and given that Solomon was known to be a follower of the occult, you can probably understand why the Catholic Church may have not been too inclined to keep his preaching in the Bible. Similarly, Jesus' name was actually changed to Yahushua, spelled I-E-S-U-S, in the first edition of the Bible. So why is this? And are struggling to come to a definitive answer about why the Vatican allegedly removed these missing books. However, it is possible that some in the Church were keen to rewrite history. Why? We don't know, but it is very strange nonetheless. The Vatican and aliens. Alien life is a fascinating topic, and a lot of people out there really do believe in extraterrestrial life. 2 topics that you probably wouldn't combine: aliens and the Christian Church. At least not in the modern day. Yet some theorists believe that the Vatican's archives are filled with quite incredible and revealing artifacts. Are they hiding a darker form of history? Aliens. So what are the Vatican archives? The institution of the Vatican Apostolic Archives was founded in 1600, but the actual archives themselves, which hold thousands of secretive documents, were moved to the Vatican Archives Library in the early 1400s. Papers in the archives are thought to date back to the 8th century and earlier. Underneath the Vatican there is a large Roman necropolis that would have acted as an open thousands of years ago. Naturally, the age and the purpose of the foundations under the Vatican City open it up to conspiracies about what could really be under the surface. Aliens are one of the things that are thought to be hidden under the Vatican archives, according to conspiracy theorists. It has been reported that when researchers began to excavate part of the necropolis, they found elongated skulls that did not resemble human heads. The Vatican themselves have openly admitted the possibility of aliens, which has only fueled the fire. Whilst nobody is sure what those skulls under the Vatican are, and more so who they belong to, many are convinced that the Church is still hiding things even though their archives have long been declassified. the Vatican's secret religious artifacts. Aliens might be a bit far-fetched when we speculate about the secret artifacts held in the Vatican. Given that the actual archives are so difficult to get access to, it's normal that theories as to what is hiding in there will arise. There is thought to be proof of Jesus' existence in the archives, held away from the majority of scholars or historians wanting to visit. The evidence is extremely secretive but also consists of some fascinating relics. Before we talk about the proof of Jesus, however, there are a few other artifacts that are supposedly held in the Vatican archives, which are mind-blowing. In the 1950s, the Vatican strangely began funding a project being worked on by the world's leading scientists. The device they were making is thought to currently be the property of the Vatican. But what exactly is it? Well, it's thought to be a pair of glasses. But not just any pair of glasses. These glasses allegedly allow the wearer to see into the past. The invention of this sort of device essentially throws what we believe are the limits of science and technology into complete disrepute. And because of this, you have to wonder why the Vatican is so keen on hiding the contraption. Could there be something that they don't want people to see through the glasses? Another of the projects thought to be in the archives is the third secret of Fatima. Fatima is a town and Catholic pilgrimage site, and during the times of Jesus, the children of the town reportedly saw visions of the Virgin Mary predicting 3 world events, including the First and Second World Wars. However, the third secret spoke of a huge persecution of Christians in the 20th century. Naturally, this persecution never occurred, leaving many to wonder whether this third secret was simply a fabrication. And the Virgin Mary actually predicted something else that is yet to occur. Perhaps the most interesting artifact thought to be hidden in the Vatican archives is rumored to be the cross that Jesus Christ passed away on. Most people think that the cross that Jesus was crucified on was broken up into parts and over the years passed through religious institution. However, it is not known where any of the true parts of the cross are today. And this is where the Vatican steps in. As one of the holiest places in the world, many think that the cross is stored in or below the Vatican archives. As we've already spoken about, the catacombs and necropolis underneath the Vatican are expansive, and there are many parts of the foundations that haven't yet been searched. Perhaps the Catholic Church wants to keep it that way. The Vatican and its archives give all people, religious or not, a glimpse into the history of Christianity. It's an incredible place, both in architecture and symbolism, and is an important place to study, appreciate, and respect. Yet, whether it's as beautiful behind the scenes as it is on the surface, for some, is up for debate. But what do you make of these mysteries surrounding the Vatican? Our world is always moving forwards, continuously creating and producing new innovative products and technologies. But our modern research and developments extend beyond our latest phone model or the newest medicine breakthrough. Some of the most fundamental research we carry out today focuses on unveiling past mysteries and rediscovering the lives of societies who shaped the world as we know it. From ancient societies, traditions, and rituals to places we did not know existed. There are many unanswered questions within our history books. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 recent discoveries that have provided us with a glimpse into human history. Mysterious underground network of Aztec pyramids. Teotihuacan, a city 30 miles northeast of Mexico City, is probably most well known for its thriving history within the Aztec period, despite it existing up to 300 years prior to this. Teotihuacan, home to the Avenue of the Dead, translates to the birthplace of the gods. This name is reflected in the religious and cultural history of the city. The Avenue of the Dead is the defining feature of Teotihuacan, reaching approximately 2.5 kilometers in length, beginning at Moon Plaza and spanning from Ciudadela to the great compound complexes. Surrounding areas see platforms and pyramids, with the Pyramid of the Sun being the tallest at 216 feet, closely followed by the Pyramid of the Moon, which can appear taller due to the uneven surfaces. While it is true that at first glance the city is marvelous and impressive, the wonders extend quite literally below the surface, with a network of underground tunnels being discovered to lie beneath the city of Teotihuacan, primarily below the Avenue of the Dead. In 2003, a vertical shaft measuring 60 feet was discovered to lead underneath the avenue. Upon further investigation, it was revealed that this shaft is an entranceway to a series of chambers and tunnels, creating an intricate network beneath the ancient city. Within these mysterious tunnels, some fascinating discoveries have been found. Objects made from green obsidian are scattered throughout the network. Volcanic rock, such as green obsidian, was used in the Aztec period to conduct religious ceremonies, suggesting a religious function to these tunnels. Human remains have also been discovered underneath the birthplace of the gods, Teotihuacan, within these unexplained tunnels. Whilst the overall size and scale of the tunnels have not been determined, the exploration here continues. Some scientists have assumed that the underground tunnels mirror the streets of the city, though this is largely conjecture. In 2017, progress in this area had been made as geologists employed the use of electrical resistivity imaging to create a map of the area the tunnels were to surround. This revealed that the underside of the Pyramid of the Moon had a large cave-like cavity within it. This hollowed-out section of the pyramid led experts through the tunnels, ultimately leading them to the center of the Avenue of the Dead. Within the network, the walls and surfaces of the chambers and tunnels are covered in pyrite powder, a toxic mineral that shines in the dark but reflects the light. Current conclusions that have been drawn assume that the tunnels were viewed by the Aztec societies as a symbolic gateway between the sky and the underworld. Despite ongoing research, as of 2020, we are unsure how old the network truly is. Mexico finds 50 skulls in sacred Aztec temple. In 2012, a team of archaeologists in Mexico claimed to have found the largest number of human skulls presented in one offering. The team stumbled across this discovery when an Aztec temple was undergoing renovations. Within the Aztec period, sacred temples saw offerings given frequently. Though this finding was particularly noteworthy because more than 50 skulls appear to have been offered at once, a significantly greater offering than we believe to be the standard. The most sacred temple of the Aztec Empire, Mexico City Templo is over 500 years old. Templo saw some of the most important rituals and Aztec ceremonies within the time frame 1325 to 1521, ending with the Spanish conquest. It has already been well established that it was common within pre-Columbian societies and civilizations to use human skulls as part of sacred rituals. But the 2012 discovery stood out to many archaeologists due to the abnormal number of skulls. 50 skulls were discovered surrounding one sacrificial stone, a spiritual place resembling a gray headstone, with 5 skulls being buried and the remaining 45 seemingly placed on top and surrounding the sacrificial stone. This truly is a bizarre finding, according to archaeologist Raul Barrera from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History. One explanation for the unusual placement of the skulls is that they have been dug up and relocated from other important ritual sites. These skulls were estimated to be between 20 to 35 years old. The 5 buried skulls discovered at the same time as those surrounding the site in August 2012 appeared to be in remarkable condition, besides from holes on either side of the skull. The assumed explanation for this is that they had been hung on a skull rack known as zompantel using a wooden stake to hold them up. Similarly, in 2011, a different site within the same temple, Templo Maya, was announced by the Mexican government to contain a large number of skulls of a young woman's skeleton. Experts believe she was sacrificed in order to personify a goddess, as evidenced by the 1,800 bones surrounding her. A sacred tree has also been uncovered within Mexico City in 2012. This is essentially a large, weathered oak tree trunk partially emerged from a well. Experts believe that the tree was taken from a mountain range nearby in order to conduct a ritual. Barrera described these recent findings collectively as very important, a view that he is not alone in holding. Susan Gillespie, an archaeologist at the University of Florida, describes this new research as novel. She continues to explain that little is known regarding the reuse of skulls within Aztec societies. Prior to these breakthroughs, The belief has been that the Aztec rituals consisted of the hearts of the individuals being torn out of their chest. This heart removal is characteristic of the Aztec rituals as opposed to decapitation. This makes the finding of skulls like these more significant, as they may provide us with more answers about the use of other body parts in Aztec rituals. Viking grave discovery in Sweden leaves archaeologists stunned. A routine archaeological dig in Gamla Uppsala, a Swedish parish 46 miles north of Stockholm, revealed the first Viking grave found in Sweden for over 50 years. In 2019, the Swedish authorities announced that a team completing an ordinary excavation had stumbled across the remains of a Viking boat burial. Across Sweden, there are only a few other known Viking graves, though they are much more well observed elsewhere throughout Scandinavia. For example, recent ships found in Norway include longhouses and ship remains below the topsoil near Holden, as well as a ship found on the shores of the Oslofjord within the span of just a few months. 2 Viking boats were discovered. They were in surprisingly good condition and had been preserved relatively well. The ships also contained the remains of a human, a dog, and a horse, alongside a number of items such as a sword, spear, shield, and an ornate comb. A burial of this manner with these items and belongings indicate the man buried was of high social standing, as these Viking boat burials were for only the highest, most privileged members of society. Archaeologists who were members of the team who found this discovery have described it as sensational. Means that for the first time the Viking burial traditions can undergo modern scientific analysis in Sweden, opening the doors to further conclusions or even new research. Team members elaborated on this premise, explaining that the team's next steps are to put the boat burials in relation to the very special area that is Old Uppsala. The Swedish parish can be traced back to the 3rd century, when it was a crucial religious, political, and economic settlement, vital to Sweden. Old Uppsala is an area rife with historical remains, and so a run-of-the-mill routine dig began in a vicarage. When the team were excavating a cellar, which they confirmed could be traced back through to the Middle Ages, the Viking grave boats slowly began to be revealed. It took 2 months to fully excavate both boats, the second of which saw some structural damage. This less than pristine condition was still impressive given the age of the boats, though the damage was assumed to have occurred when the cellar was built, in what is estimated to be the 16th century. Now in 2020, there are some elements of these discoveries displayed in the Old Uppsala Museum and in the Swedish History Museum in Stockholm. From gathering a more comprehensive view of the religious and spiritual lives of ancient societies, to discovering impressive ships, the sociological, archaeological, and historical discoveries being made in our society today are astounding. While it is easy to focus on the present or adopt an attitude considering it is all in the past, the finding and discovery of new information from those who lived before us has valuable implications to the scientific nature of the human race. During 1952, following the end of World War II and the growing tensions between the NATO allies and the Soviet Union, it wasn't uncommon for simulated naval war games to take place throughout different points controlled by NATO. What was uncommon, however, were the series of reports surrounding unidentified flying objects, flying saucers, and encounters with what could only be described as extraterrestrial technologies. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be going over one of the strangest wargame disruptions known as Operation Mainbrace, and what it could mean for the recovered documents surrounding military personnel and alien encounters. Referred to as Operation Mainbrace during the month of September back in 1952, there was roughly a 2-week period in which a series of unidentified flying objects were sighted. This was reported by countless civilians and military personnel. According to the documents that would later be dubbed Operation Mainbrace, the UFO sightings began on the 14th of September during a series of NATO exercises known as Exercise Mainbrace. This was only a few months after the sightings of UFO crafts were made over in Washington, D.C. in the United States during the same year. The Exercise Mainbrace included more than 200 naval ships, 1,000 planes, and 80,000 soldiers from several NATO countries. This was with the purpose of practicing wargame-styled maneuvers and would better prepare the NATO allies for a believed to be eventual European attack from the Soviet Union. During the exercise, however, ships were alerted by top Pentagon officials to keep an eye out for extraterrestrial sightings in the area. When later asked to clarify what they meant, the Pentagon officials claimed that their reports were filed in a joking manner and weren't military confirmation of the existence of extraterrestrial life. However, this is a behavior uncharacteristic of naval intelligence and the British government as a whole. Regardless of whether or not the report was filed in a joking manner, a series of unidentified flying objects would be sighted by military personnel and civilians between the 13th and 25th of September. This in turn disrupted the exercises and forced the Royal Air Force and NATO allies to treat flying saucer reports with grave severity. The first main brace encounter took place on the 13th of September. Running a Danish destroyer claimed to have spotted a triangular-shaped, unidentified flying object moving across the sky. It was hitting speeds that even their most powerful jets couldn't maintain. The crew of the Danish destroyer confirmed these sightings as well, with the Lieutenant Commander Schmidt-Jensen claiming that collected data showed the craft was moving consistently at 900 miles per hour. Even though the sighting took place at night, the entirety of the crew could see the craft as it emitted a bright blue glow. The second report surrounding alien disruptions was made by the American-owned USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. According to the American newspaper, there was a report that a man named Wallace Litwin began to notice many of the crew members running all throughout the ship in a heightened state of alert. Fearing that the exercises had become an attack from the Soviet Union, he began looking for a source of the panic. This was when he noticed a large commotion on the deck of the ship. Wallace Litwin wrote that several pilots, flight crew members, and top military officials were positioned on the deck, barking orders and pointing at a silver sphere in the sky that appeared to silently hover over the ship. It also continued to follow the USS Franklin to Roosevelt during its exercise. Reporter Wallace Litwin quickly took 4 high-quality colored photos of the round silver object before it disappeared. When questioned surrounding the images and the legitimacy of the claim, the United States government offered an explanation. They said the craft was nothing more than a weather balloon that had temporarily dipped down near the battleship during the war games. These claims would be put into question, as reporter Wallace Litwin recounts that shortly after taking the images of the craft, he'd gone below deck and told his fellow newspaper correspondents that he had just shot a flying saucer. This claim of military action quickly alerted the ship's executive officer, who investigated the claims himself, and found that the craft was genuinely not a weather balloon. According to the executive officer, investigations had shown that a weather balloon hadn't been released that day. When the officer radioed the Midway, the only other NATO-approved ship in the vicinity, the ship also confirmed that no weather balloons were in the air or unaccounted for. Litwin would write the following report, saying, in other words, the sky above this NATO fleet were very carefully observed, and nothing flew around overhead unobserved. But I knew that I had taken a picture of what looked like a large ping-pong ball 10 feet over my head. The U.S. Project Blue Book UFO investigation team would do a follow-up investigation. They provided the report that the object moved too fast to have been a weather balloon, even though it resembled a balloon in some ways, and was in no way identical to any known weather balloons in use by any organization in the world, government or private. One of the most notable accounts of these UFO sightings would take place on the 19th at 11 a.m. This was when a large silver-colored disc-shaped object began following a Royal Air Force Gloucester meteor. Not only did the pilot of the Gloucester meteor confirm his sighting with a number of military ground crew working at the RAF station, but several additional reports had also been filed by observers on the ground. This was alongside civilian reports of the unidentified flying object trailing the Gloucester meteor. The craft was described as being a silvery circular object, and began to descend in a swinging pendulum motion similar to that of a falling leaf. Before the craft reached the ground, however, observers commented that it rotated on its own axis and shot off at an incredible sudden speed. They noted that it looked more like a shooting star. Royal Air Force Flight Lieutenant John Kilburn with the 269th Squadron commented, saying the following statement: "The movements of the object were not identifiable with anything I've ever seen in the air." Despite efforts made by the British government, the story of the Topcliffe sighting was leaked to the press and made the headline for the front-page edition of the September 20th copy of the Yorkshire Evening Press and the headlines of the September 21st copy of the Sunday Dispatch. So what do you think of all these impossible-to-explain sightings of unidentified objects and extraterrestrial encounters? What do you think military personnel from NATO allies witnessed during these exercises? One of the greatest civilizations to ever have existed is that of the Maya. This ancient civilization is best known for their sophisticated writing, and in recent years researchers had been able to map out certain areas where this civilization lived. It turns out they were well distributed throughout northern Mexico and Central America. The Maya civilization was known for being one of the most sophisticated and highly developed cultures of pre-Columbian Americas. They were also known for their astronomical knowledge, art, agriculture, and mathematics. The Maya Empire was a strong one and had a lasting foundation that would see them fit for many years. However, during the 16th century, researchers noticed that they seemingly vanished. This civilization is perhaps best known for its calendar, as allegedly predicted when the world would end. The 2012 event was believed by some to be humans' last year on Earth. Allegedly, according to some, the calendar predicted that a massive event would happen during 2012. 2012 would mark the end of a 5,126-year-long cycle in the Mesoamerican calendar, and various theories suggested that a cataclysmic event would unfold, ending all of the planet as we know it. Many different ideas were sent around as to how the planet would end, with one of the leading theories being that of a supermassive black hole that would devour our planet, or that several natural disasters would be set off all at once. According to various news outlets, scientist Paulo Otago again tweeted the following: "Following the Julian calendar, we're technically in 2012. The number of days lost in a year due to the shift in the Gregorian calendar is 11 days. For 268 years using the Gregorian calendar. 1752 to 2020 times 11 days equals 2,948 days. 2,948 days divided by 365 days per year equals 8 years." End quote. Strangely, the accounts that originally posted that statement has now been deleted, which has caused some to question whether the person was just messing around, was actually telling the truth. One person on Twitter said the following: "The whole argument makes zero sense. Why would we want to recalculate the Gregorian calendar to the Julian calendar? The mind apocalypse is all about the cycle of Bactans." End quote. Another person went on to say the following: "I'm not even sure the tweets were serious. With everything that's happening right now, another disaster would make headlines. I'm sure that's why various news outlets posted the story in the first place. I don't believe that anything is going to happen, and I'm not sure why people are still getting hung up on this." End quote. Others believe the claims that are being made, with another individual saying the following: "I think there could be some truth to this. Perhaps the original comments were deleted because scientists were speaking the truth, and he was told to delete the comments in order not to cause mass panic. There's a lot happening right now in the world, and maybe these comments could have been a tipping point for some. I don't think we give our ancient ancestors enough credit, and I believe they knew more than what we do today. The most recent theory going around is that we read this ancient calendar wrong, and that the date the world is going to end wasn't actually 2012, but rather 2021. With one online user saying the following: "The calendar has always been read wrong. People don't understand that the true date is that of 2021 and not 2012. The numbers were the wrong way around. This can be backed up by seeing how this year has played out. And if you think this is bad, then get ready for 2021, because it's going to get a lot worse. We are just gearing up for something massive to happen. All the signs point to something huge playing out in 2021. This whole time we were reading the dates wrong." End quote. Other people have also said the following about this idea: It seems weird how this theory was put forward during a time when bad things are happening. Perhaps there's some truth to it and we've been reading it wrong this whole time. I'm worried for 2021 now. Maybe the prediction will come true next year." End quote. As of right now, researchers have said this isn't the case and that every few years new ideas are put forward to say when the world will end, but that none of them are true. Again, though, this hasn't stopped amateur researchers from suggesting that something big is going to happen soon, and that 2020 is leading up to something much bigger. There's also been many interesting discoveries made around the Mayan civilization. Discovering the ruins of an ancient city surrounded by the sprawling plant life of a jungle is a fantasy that many of us had during our years. There's something about uncovering the remnants of an ancient civilization that interests many of us. Many ancient ruins may still be out there waiting to be discovered, and since new technologies are allowing scientists more and more ways to find what was previously invisible, the possible outcome for future ruins discovered are looking more and more positive. One amazing example is the network of Mayan ruins discovered in 2018. The Maya people have been seen as a cornerstone of human civilization, with a deep and complex understanding of architecture, culture, and religious practices that still amaze historians in the modern day. Yet, nobody was expecting the extent of the discovery made in 2018, when over 60,000 manned ruins were uncovered in Guatemala. While archaeologists had already spent years mapping out the region known as El Zanz, the development of LiDAR technology allowed researchers to create a detailed map of the area's surface, and they did this from above much faster than before. To give an idea of how dense the jungle is in this area, one archaeologist stated that one find was made within 150 feet. But due to the thick vegetation, they'd never spotted it. The LiDAR technology shaved off years of the team's overall work, and it has uncovered an unbelievable amount of previously unknown Mayan ruins, including walls, moats, roadways, and fortresses. Some of the most interesting finds from the discovery include a 7-story pyramid, and this was completely hidden by foliage, as well as an intricate network of raised highways that connected all the Mayan cities in the local area. These networks are particularly fascinating as they show signs of heavy use, indicating that trade between cities was frequent. Stephen Houston, a professor of archaeology and anthropology at Brown University, stated the following: "It's one of the greatest advances in over 150 years of Mayan archaeology. LiDAR imagery is a new tool that spots archaeological points of interest that would otherwise be invisible to humans. Using remote sensing technology, LiDAR uses beams of lasers pointed at the ground to create an image of the area's surface. The beams then bounce back and the wavelengths are measured, giving an accurate picture of what lies below. The find in Guatemala has made historians completely rethink what they thought of the Mayan people. Observing the thousands upon thousands of ruins, it could be possible that the civilization population was 3 to 4 times bigger than we once believed." Mr. Estrada Belli said the following: "With this new data, it's no longer unreasonable to think there were 10 to 15 million people there, including many living in low-lying swampy areas that many of us had thought uninhabitable." End quote. Although this discovery is incredible, researchers have their work cut out for them, as the El Zot site is likely to house more than 3,000 years of Mayan civilization. This means that many of the finds may be from completely different periods in Mayan history, and it will take a long time to accurately study and catalog each and every one of them. Still, it just goes to show that there could be an untold number of things waiting to be discovered in our planet's jungles. So what do you make of the idea that we've read the Mayan calendar wrong? Space is one of the last unexplored frontiers. It will likely be a place that humans never fully explore. With that being said, we've done a great job at studying many of the celestial bodies that reside close by. One of the most fascinating ones is that of the Sun. The Sun sits the center of the solar system and is credited as being responsible for many important things. As stated on NASA's website, nothing is more important to us on Earth than the Sun. Without the Sun's heat and light, the Earth would be a lifeless ball of ice-coated rock. The sun warms our seas, stirs our atmosphere, generates our weather patterns, and gives energy to the growing green plants that provide the food and oxygen for life on Earth. End quote. One of the more well-known things about our sun is its incredible size and its temperature. It holds the title for being the largest celestial body in our solar system. Scientists have said it contains more than 99% of the total mass of the solar system, with the largest planet Jupiter containing just 0.2%. This giant is responsible for holding the solar system together, with scientists saying the sun is around 110 times the diameter of the Earth. This means that over 1 million Earths could fit inside the sun. Although the sun is an incredible force, researchers have said there's billions of them throughout the Milky Way galaxy alone. Recently, the sun has been featured in the news, and this is because people are pointing their telescopes at it and watching it on live feeds. What's captured people's attention in recent years is the strange anomalies that seem to make themselves known close to the sun. In recent times, NASA has come forward and said these are nothing more than anomalies, that sometimes strange shapes appear due to processing errors. But amateur researchers don't believe these explanations and have gone on to give their own theories for what they think they are. The most recent image that's making the rounds on social media is this one, and it shows what appears to be a large object close to the sun. Those who have seen the image have given a variety of possible explanations, with the most common ones being that of a giant UFO to it being a solar flare. One user said the following about the image. This is just another in a long line of objects that have been seen close to the sun. It seems that every other day one of these objects is spotted. The frustrating thing is that they never get investigated. They just get brushed under the carpet and given the label of space debris. How many more of these objects need to be photographed before they start to get taken seriously? End quote. Another user said this, as mentioned before, amateur researchers have said that one of the best places to capture UFOs is that of the sun and moon, saying that many strange unidentified flying objects are photographed here, and that the majority of these remain unexplained. When these photographs are captured by NASA or other space agencies, they usually say the reason that these anomalies come up is because of processing errors, and in reality there's nothing there. As of right now, UFO researchers think these crafts have been visiting our sun for years, and even suggest they may be using it as some sort of portal, or that the sun could be some type of fueling station. NASA has said the following about these anomalies. Ever since launch, there's been a number of people who've claimed to have seen flying saucers and other objects in SOHO images. Although some of the supposed pictures of UFOs can seem quite intriguing, they've always turned out to have quite an ordinary cause when examined by experienced scientists. Recently, we've been receiving so many questions and claims that we'd like to set the record straight. We've never seen anything that even suggests that UFOs are out there. In the past, we've been accused of covering up UFO evidence when we present our explanations and refusing to comment or clamming up when we give up on somebody who want to accept our explanations. While we don't expect to convince everybody, we hope that our pages and links can provide some information for the curious who want to investigate the claims on their own. Most commonly, UFO claims are due to perfectly natural flaws or artifacts in or publicly available data. Some of the things that people are seeing are planets, cosmic rays, software glitches, and debris. Another NASA official said the following about these claims. The majority of these alleged UFO sightings can be easily explained. One of the things that people see is space debris that's made its way in front of the cameras. When these pieces of debris are up close, it can look like an unidentified flying object. In reality, people are just seeing a common piece of space debris. Others, though, don't buy into these explanations and say that so many of them are captured and each time they're different. With one person saying the following, I understand that NASA is trying to bring some sense to these photographs, but many of them are just too interesting to ignore. Some of these have been noted as hovering close to the sun for several hours, before it can then be seen making a slow exit. I definitely agree with NASA that some of these objects are things like space debris and camera anomalies, but it does seem very unlikely that every one of these is just debris. People who watch the sky have also reported seeing similar looking objects. So perhaps the UFOs that are seen on our planet and the ones that are seen close to the sun are linked. As of right now, NASA and other space agencies have said these objects don't need to be investigated, and that all people are seeing is just space debris. Amateur researchers, though, are convinced that something is going on. With space being so vast, could there be advanced crafts that have the ability to approach our sun? Or are we simply misinterpreting these objects as something else? What you make of this mysterious object captured close to the sun, and what you think it could be? Last month, various photographs started to make the rounds on social media, showing what appeared to be ancient Mayan artifacts. Interestingly, some of these stood out because they showed what looked like mysterious beings, with some going on to say they looked eerily similar to aliens. Now more photographs have emerged online showing similar-looking artifacts. A month on, and it's still tough to track down where these photographs came from. They first showed up on UFO groups online, while others posted them to UFO-related websites. The original story goes that researchers were exploring an ancient mine system when they discovered these artifacts. Reports on why they were found vary depending on where you read, along with websites not being able to track down the original people who made the discoveries. Regardless, though, they reported that a team of archaeologists were surprised to find the ancient ruins, saying that it's one of the biggest discoveries in the area in recent years. One report states that the artifacts were discovered during the building of the Mayan train. Currently, construction workers underway to build a large railway in Mexico. The construction began in December 2018, with various people coming forward and saying that strange discoveries have been made in the area. These mysterious artifacts were discovered and there's no other way to describe these artifacts other than they look like extraterrestrials, possessing big eyes, a large oval head matching the overall shape of the gray alien. This has had social media users convinced that these are the real deal. Because these images were only posted a month ago, it's tough to track down more information about them, who found them and where they're currently being held. Now, new images have surfaced, with users saying these new artifacts were found in a similar location. Online users have said these new discoveries are part of the same horde, while others have said they were discovered at the same time, but it's taken a while for them to be uploaded online. One user said the following about these discoveries. What I find interesting about these new discoveries is how they look so similar to the ones just posted. I can't find any websites attributed to these discoveries, so I find it hard to believe that someone would create them with the sole intention of selling them. I can't track down who owns these. They are very interesting and could help shed some light on the history of the area. While another person said the following, perhaps they're real in the sense that someone put them there. Maybe someone made them as a joke and put them in an excavation site. To me, it just seems too good to be true. End quote. Not everyone was impressed with the finds, though. After the images got put online, various users started to ask archaeologists in the region whether these finds were genuine, with one Mexican archaeologist saying that these are vague, and that although they are allegedly found with other Mayan artifacts, it's thought they were placed here in order to make the findings seem more genuine, with one person going on to say the following. If this was the real deal, it would be one of the biggest archaeological discoveries ever made. I can't find much information about this either. Searching people only brings up a few results. I think that these are fake. End quote. One thing people have mentioned, though, is that if these are fake, it seems like a lot of work to go through. Why would someone go out of their way to spend countless hours creating these artifacts, only for them to be shut down by archaeologists when they're finally discovered? This one user said the following, I'm on the edge about these discoveries. On one hand, they sound too good to be true, but on the other hand, I want to believe. I'm sure if these are real, though, they'll likely be taken and stored away somewhere. I doubt these will be given any serious consideration. After all, could you imagine if these turned out to be real? It would pretty much rewrite history. This person said the following, to be honest, 2020 can't get any worse. Can it? so discovering alien artifacts underneath Mexico doesn't seem far-fetched. Let's see what else 2020 brings. The ancient Mayan civilization grew and flourished in the southern part of Mexico and Guatemala. They were one of the most important ancient civilizations that ever existed on planet Earth. The Mayan civilization is known to be the first ones to use rubber creation diverse products, 3,000 years before people had ever heard of rubber. The Mayans believed in the nature of life. For them, nothing was ever born and nothing ever died. This belief actually inspired their view of the cosmos and the gods. Just like the Egyptians, Mayans were also brilliant astronomers and mathematicians. Mayans are credited for the invention of the number 0 and measuring the length of the solar years with great accuracy. The Mayan script is also one of the things that makes them stand out. It's the only known developed writing system of the pre-climbing Americans. The earliest inscriptions and identifiable Mayan writing is believed to go back to the 3rd century BCE. However, going back in 2012, several mysterious artifacts were said to have been discovered. It started when the Mexican government showed off these incredible artifacts. These were featured on a few websites and caused excitement in the archaeological community. It was also said that the Mexican government kept them hidden away for over 80 years. Researchers soon came forward and said the artifacts had been discovered inside an ancient pyramid, and this pyramid was said to have been unexplored, with the researchers at the time discovering a massive haul of these artifacts. Interestingly, it became very obvious that these are not everyday artifacts, and what we see on them include depictions of UFOs and aliens. This topic interests many of us, and the photographs soon went viral, with many wanting to know the truth behind them. However, it wasn't long before people started to question the true nature of these artifacts. When first looking at them, it does appear as if the carvings bear striking resemblance to extraterrestrials. As you can imagine, the UFO community welcomed these objects with open arms, as they thought it detailed first-hand encounters with alien life. It's now believed, though, by most researchers that the artifacts are fake, and that people were trying to make quick money by selling the story. This has angered some of the UFO community, as all this does is discredit their ideas and views. There are some, however, that think these artifacts are real, and that this story was put out there in order to cover it up and stop people talking about it. Regardless, to this day, this seems to be an ongoing debate about whether advanced ancient civilizations really existed. So what do you make of these mysterious artifacts that have just been discovered? Do you think they're the real deal or just fakes? Also, if you think they're real, what do you think they're depicting? Whether you notice something in a different place to where you left it, or a cold chill that suddenly enters the room, there's no denying the countless paranormal experiences that occur during our time on Earth. Whatever you like to call these phenomena, ghouls, monsters, or demons, there are many bone-chilling accounts of demonic behavior throughout history. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 terrifying tales of demons and exorcisms: the exorcist, priest, and the devil. Even the agnostic knows that in religious doctrine the devil is not someone to mess around with. The red-horned, fallen angel himself is the main antagonistic figure in Christianity and often symbolizes all of mankind's sins and the potential fall that any person could make from God's kingdom. As such, many priests and religious figureheads take it upon themselves to fend off demonic from untold harm. The most common and well-known method adopted by these priests is the act of exorcism, or sacred and holy rite, that expunges demonic entities from their unwilling hosts. Father Gabriel Amorth is one of those priests and is one of the most famous exorcists in all of history. But this particular story centers on Father Gabriel Amorth's close contact with the demon of darkness himself. Our story begins in 1997 in Italy's capital. Rome, known for its devoted followers of Catholicism, was no stranger to exorcisms, but this particular case would forever haunt Father Gabriel for the years to follow. One day, a young peasant man is brought to Father Gabriel and into his exorcism room. Gabriel immediately knew something was off. He had felt it many times before. The man stood before him bore an evil presence. Knowing that he would need to expunge the demon from the man in front of him, Gabriel spoke and asked for the assistance of Jesus to guide him. Immediately the young man started to spit and curse at the priest. Strangely, the man spoke in English and not Italian, which was his native language. Marcello Stanzioni, author of The Devil is Afraid of Me, the life and work of the world's most famous exorcist, wrote the following on the incident. His curses and threats were aimed solely at the exorcist. Then he began spitting at him and preparing to attack him physically. Screaming and howling, the demon burst forth and looked straight at him, drooling saliva from the young man's mouth. Father Gabriel quickly began to recite prayers towards the demonic man, telling it to reveal its true identity. "Unclean spirit," Father shouted, "whoever you are and all your companions who possess this servant of God, I command you, tell me your name, the day and the hour of your damnation." The reply was shocking and chilled Father Gabriel to his core. The man stared at him with glazed eyes and spluttered, "I am Lucifer." Retelling the story years later, Gabriel stated that he began to send a flurry of prayers towards the possessed soul, specifically reciting verses of liberation from the Roman rite of exorcism. The demon writhed in pain from the father's words. The person before him began to violently fling his head back and roll his eyes so that Gabriel could no longer see his pupils. He stretched and shrieked endlessly, and the man's back held arched for quarter of an hour. As the exorcism carried on, Stanzioni writes, the room became exceptionally cold. The young man's body stiffened so much that he became rigid and began to levitate. For several minutes, he remained hovering 3 feet in the air. After floating in the air, the possessed man eventually fell and dropped into a chair. Father Gabriel Amorth had managed to quell the power of the beast. Father continued to visit the man each day. He would pray over the unfortunate man until he received no more resistance from him, and it was clear that the devil was no longer using him as a host. Father Gabriel Amorth took the opportunity to ask the man how Lucifer had left his body. The man replied that he began to howl like never before. Then, at the end of this, he felt new and lost. The Zozo demon. The Zozo demon is a spirit you may not have heard of. This mysterious and newly discovered entity is not one to take lightly, and the story of its existence is as frightening as it is interesting. The Zozo demon is a mischievous spiritual entity that makes contact with humans through the use of Ouija boards. Those who have reported to coming to contact with Zoho state that he reveals himself by guiding those using the Ouija board into making figure eights before moving frantically between the letters Z and O. Zozo's interactions with humans often begin friendly and cordial, but they soon turn frightening. Zoho has been reported to curse and threaten those who are present at the Ouija board. Believers in the existence of Zoho state that he has his origins in ancient times, dating back to societies from thousands of years ago in Africa. Still, his beginnings are shrouded in mystery. However, the first textual reference to Zoho first happened in 1818, in a book with the story of a young village girl who stated that she had been possessed by 3 different demons called Mimi, Crapule, and one named Zozo. In 2009, after years of obscurity, the demonic presence of Zozo began to undergo significant popularity through the work of a man named Darren Evans. Evans, a man from Oklahoma in the United States, claimed that he had come into contact with a demon called Zozo. Evans published his account through a website. In his post, Evans detailed how he had been interested in ghosts and the occult from a young age. Still, he admitted he had never seen or experienced anything like the demon Zozo. Zozo was different. Evans stated that Zozo revealed himself regularly, too many times to count. Zozo would adopt the presence of a friendly spirit before changing to more aggressive behavior, often cursing in what Evans described as looked like Latin or Hebrew. I was genuinely fascinated and startled by how many times Zozo showed up, even in many different states and many different Ouija boards, Evans wrote in his famous post. He continued to assert that Zozo also made many threats against his young daughter, who was still a toddler. Evans claims that Zozo nearly drowned her in the bathtub and infected her with an unknown affliction or illness. He stated this is when he began to suspect a demonic attack. The post by Evans soon started to gain traction among fans of the paranormal online. Readers began to tell their own stories, many with striking similarities to that of Evans. Whether or not you believe in Evans' story, many who fear the occult certainly do. An independent feature film named I Am Zozo was released, which actually features a cameo by Darren Evans himself. Asag, the monstrous demon. Many demons that are reported to enact cruel punishments upon humans today actually trace their histories back to ancient Sumer. Sumer is the earliest known civilization to emerge from southern Mesopotamia, and the culture of Sumer was founded on stories of the Mesopotamian underworld, which was filled with a wide array of horrific demons. Asag, known for his ability to make fish boil alive in water just by his presence alone, is a monstrous and dangerous demon. Upon his arrival, Asag was believed to be accompanied into battle with his army of rock demon offspring. Asag is known to be a large round creature with 3 legs and 3 arms. Asag also has no neck and features eyes covering his entire body. His skin is dark and hard to the touch, almost like rock. He is the sworn enemy of Ninurta, the Sumerian god of war, and was eventually defeated by Ninurta after fighting for days on end. Fulfilling his role of plague and disease, Asag was believed to linger inside a person's body and had the ability to enrobe any unfortunate human like their clothing. There are particular references to his ability to cause head fevers and to eventually cause loss of muscle function in his victims. It is believed that Asag was supposed to represent or was born out of racism and fear of the ancient Sumerian people. The Zagros Mountains and the Sumer region were home to groups like the Kassites, Gudi, Assyrians, Elamites, and Mitanni. These groups would raid and attack Sumerian cities and were thought as less than human by the ancient Mesopotamians. The dark, destructive demon of Asag is a direct parallel to this. Perhaps Asag is simply a symbolic myth, or perhaps something much more sinister grew from the fears of the ancient Sumerians. So what do you make of these demons and exorcisms? For hundreds of years, mysterious reports have been made about large humanoids. Individuals have come forward about their encounters, and in some cases they've even managed to photograph what they saw. These giant creatures have been given the name of Bigfoot, and they're easily one of the most researched and cited cryptids on the planet. However, even though they're witnessed by thousands of people yearly, scientists have said there's no such creatures. And what people are actually seeing is mundane things like everyday wildlife. These creatures usually follow a theme. They stand on 2 legs and are roughly 7 to 12 feet tall. They have the general appearance of that of a large ape-like creature. Sightings of this beast have persisted for eons, since the time of the Aborigines and their ancient mythological folklore. What's even more startling about these claims is that even in the modern day people are encountering these creatures. All over the globe there have been reports of them, from Tibet, America, and even Australia. There's no shortage of stories. Ancient myths credit these creatures as having run-ins with humans. And when this happens, it doesn't usually end well. Some have even managed to record some of their mysterious calls. And when given to scientists, they have said that humans are unable to make these kinds of noises. The Washington State Department of Transportation posted the following on Twitter. Sasquatch spotted. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. Have you noticed something strange on our Sherman Pass State Route 20 camera before? If you look closely by the tree on the left, there looks to be something. Might be Sasquatch. We'll leave that up to you. One person went on to say the following, is the story that it's a cardboard cutout that you guys put there because you were bored and wanted to generate some more social media presence? To which the Washington State Department of Transportation replied with the following, it's not a cardboard cutout. I've never been up to the camera. There have been items put in front of the camera by locals in the area for 15 plus years. Just happened to notice this one the other day when I was going to give a road conditions update in the past. Then this happened. They also said that it wasn't photoshopped. One person said the following: although this photo may turn out to be fake, I have seen various mysterious creatures in this region. I am someone that spent over 20 years in the outdoors, and I have only encountered 4 of them. They are very elusive. They'll be gone before you can get close to them. This is why they're notoriously difficult to photograph. I've tried every single time I encountered one on a hike, and each time the photograph looks terrible. They move too fast and are usually too far away to be picked up in a detailed image. I have no doubt in my mind that these ancient creatures exist in small clusters around our planet. I think that soon we'll get proof. However, in all my experiences, they don't seem keen on humans and always try their best to keep a distance. Others, however, have said the image shows gaps in the dreams, and this is creating an illusion that something is there. The last few years, Tom DeLonge has expressed his interest in unidentified flying objects. He said that he's been fascinated with them for years. While on tour, he would read books that explored the possibility of extraterrestrials, and since then he's been hooked. Recently, Tom came forward on Instagram and said that he'd witnessed an unidentified aerial phenomenon. He said the following about his encounter: so last night I get a text from somebody that there was an unidentified air phenomena right off the beach where I live. I ran to my balcony and saw it split into 2 pieces and raise vertically. I grabbed Marie, jumped in my truck, and went straight down to the beach. We were the only ones on the beach last night as this light disappeared, reappeared, broke into 3 pieces and stacked vertically, with one little red dot flying around the top and then disappearing for the rest of the evening. This video doesn't show much, but we were up quite late watching the light dance, about half a mile to a mile off the beach. It was huge and it was fiery orange. Of course, I called up Lou Elizondo as I was there, and he was telling me all the things I was supposed to do with the location. Geographic details, weather, altitude, and distance. Of course, I was completely worthless when it came to these details, but it was a big deal. Lou checked immediately, and there was no flights in the area except the one I had my eye on the entire time. No military, no boats, and a bunch of hovering lights that were stacked on top of each other. It was wild. Who knows? Various people were impressed with the footage, even coming forward and saying that they had seen similar objects. Recently, it was announced by Tom DeLonge and his To the Stars Academy that they were working with the U.S. government in regards to their unidentified air phenomena discovery. The company has also said they've brought on some leading researchers on AI, and that they're working on a new service. To the Stars Academy posted the following: as part of our AI initiatives, we've built a compelling service for post-ingestion and analysis processing, which marks an instance authentic if it passes human and machine learning analysis. These datasets will help us analyze future ingested media and clean up unnecessary data. Tom then went on to say the following: this is a very exciting technology we've built. It can be used for numerous defense requirements as well as its primary mission to track unidentified air phenomenon. Further saying the following: I'm proud to be collaborating with the U.S. government on the unidentified aerial phenomenon issue. It's been a lifelong dream to be sitting in this seat where I and my team at the To the Stars Academy can help understand the issue. First, we start with the U.S. Army testing our anomalous material, purportedly from an unidentified aerial phenomenon crash. Although this is great news in the sense that Tom and his company are making connections. Others have worried about the path he's going down. It's important to remember, though, that a UFO is simply an object that someone cannot identify at that moment in time. As of right now, Tom has said it's an exciting time for him and his company. The universe is a truly massive place. Going back in 2015, Russian astronomers discovered a mysterious signal coming from a star system. This system is only 94 light-years away from our planet. The HD 164595 star system has been described as being a possible candidate for intelligent beings. This excited many people as every year we pick up on mysterious signals in the cosmos. What's interesting about this one, though, is that it's so close to our planet. The Russian team used powerful telescopes to get a closer look at the system. Interestingly, they said it only has one planet, and that it's similar in size to Neptune, which resides in our solar system. The researchers said, however, that it's likely there could be other planets in this region. Paul Gilster said the following: what we know of HD 164595 is that it's a star of 0.99 solar masses at a distance of roughly 95 light-years in the constellation Hercules, and an estimated age of 6.3 billion years. Interestingly, it was reported that it's not impossible that the signal could be from extraterrestrial life, but the researchers warn not to overhype this discovery, and that we don't know all the facts surrounding the signal. Scientists are trying hard to discover evidence of life out there in the vastness of space. The exploration of space is extremely important for our existence. With enough knowledge and technology out there, we could actually travel through space and live on certain planets in the near future. Recently, scientists have come forward and announced that another mysterious radio signal has caught their attention. This is because the signal has made itself known for the 5th year in a row. What's so mysterious about these signals is that we're usually not able to track the team behind the study have managed to track the signal to a spiral galaxy. This galaxy in question is said to be 495 to 505 million light-years away from our planet, and that it's most likely linked to the mysterious fast radio bursts that have confused researchers for years. One of the astronomers who's been working on the case said the following about the signals. This object's location is radically different from that of not only the previous located repeating fast, but also all previously studied fast radio bears. This blurs the difference between repeating and non-repeating fast radio bears. It may be that FRBs are produced in a large zoo of locations across the universe, and just require some specific conditions to be visible. This has caused some people to put forward the idea that these signals have been sent out by other civilizations. Although this sounds like an out-there theory, this is very possible, with scientists even coming forward and saying this can't be ruled out. One of the astronomers said the following: the multiple flashes that we witnessed in the first repeating FRB arose from very particular and extreme conditions inside a very tiny galaxy. This discovery represented the first piece of the puzzle, but it also raised more questions than it solved, such as whether there was a fundamental difference between repeating and non-repeating FRBs. The subject of UFOs is a fascinating one. For hundreds of years now, these unidentified flying objects have been observed, but what's interesting is the amount of alleged crashes. Over the years, these crafts have allegedly made contact with the planet. Although each case is different, many of them follow a similar theme. It usually involves strange-looking aircraft crashing to the ground, and in some cases having the occupants laying around the crash site. Some of the most famous UFO crashes are that of Roswell and the Rendlesham Forest. On the 26th of December, 1980 at around 3 a.m., an eyewitness saw lights that were close to the Rendlesham Forest. At first, soldiers thought it was a crashed aircraft, but after they entered the forest to investigate, they saw a metallic glowing object that kept moving further away. The military personnel weren't able to catch up to the object. Interestingly, for years people have also come forward with stories of allegedly being taken on board these crafts. The eyewitnesses report that those controlling these crafts are not from Earth, and have features that include 2 large black eyes, gray skin, and a large head. Although some of these cases are relatively known, there's one case that details a UFO colliding with the ground while having an abductee on board. The story goes back to 1971 in California. A local resident reported that she was scared by a really loud sound. Wanting to know what had caused the sound, she quickly ran outside, where many neighbors were also wondering what had caused the loud explosion. They could see a large amount of smoke coming from a few miles away. It's interesting to note that Edwards Air Force Base was nearby. However, one thing the residents picked up on was the mysterious glowing lights in the distance. The residents ventured to the site where the object had crashed. Here they observed a mushroom-shaped craft that was gray in color, having green flashing lights around it. The residents said the object was unlike anything they'd seen before. The material of the object was smooth, with no markings, doors, or windows. They remarked how it looked as though the craft had been created using one sheet of material. Things were about to get even more strange. They then noticed that small gray humanoids were laying on the ground. After observing them, their attention was then brought to a mysterious woman making her way through the debris. She was described as wearing a type of spacesuit. Before anything else could happen, military personnel from the nearby base were arriving at the site. The military told everyone that was in the area that they had to leave or they would be in serious trouble. The residents, along with everyone else, was unsurprisingly interested in what happened in the area. However, there was no information about it in the newspaper or on the local news. The event was covered up by the military and forgotten about. That was until UFO researcher Albert Rosales tracked down the mysterious woman. Her name was Lorraine Cordini. She did admit to being the woman at the crash site, but that she didn't remember much of the event. She eventually went under hypnosis and revealed the following. I was physically on board a mother's spaceship working. When it was time to return to Earth, 3 ETs, 1 female essence and 2 male essence were the crew. We were either shot down or crashed near Edwards Air Force Base in California. I remember standing in the wreckage, suddenly in conscious memory, confused, disorientated, and filled with sorrow. This was as military personnel kicked the bodies of the 2 dead teens. I remember hearing in my mind the captain of the mothership saying how sorry she was, and that she couldn't help us in fear of being detected. The female crewman was standing to my left. I had on a pink bodysuit. I cried as the military cursed my dead comrades. I don't yet remember what the parts of the ship looked like. It seems that bizarre discoveries are often made when people least expect it. This is what happened to one man who was hiking close to Death Valley National Park. The man said the following about his strange discovery. On March 31st, 2020, I was attempting to hike from Cerro Gordo Ghost Town to the border of the Death Valley National Park. The hike is around 7 miles each way but is extremely steep, and the road was packed with snow. A bobcat had visited the cabin I was staying in the night before and left tracks all over my porch, so I was paying more attention to the various tracks I came across in the snow. I saw a few foxes and coat ties. The hike was so difficult that I didn't make it all the way to Death Valley, but stopped around 5 miles in because I was afraid of the sun going down and being stranded out in the cold. On my way back to Cerro Gordo, I took a slightly different path. Given that it was uphill and I was cold and exhausted, I mainly kept my eyes on the ground right in front of me. I'd say around 3 miles back into my return trip, I saw a number of huge prints. I stepped over them at first, but went back and was in awe of how big the prints were. I started learning more about prints, but this didn't look like anything I'd seen in the books, so I took a few pictures and put a quarter down to give some scale. Something other animal trackers online told me to do to help them identify different prints. Also, you can see my shoe print above to give a better idea of size. After I saw it, I was really concerned and picked up my pace to get back to Sierra Gordo before sunset. I saw the print around 6 p.m. and the sunsets around 7 p.m. I only had 2 miles left, but it was straight uphill and deep as snow. I made it back and started looking online and couldn't find any explanation. Interestingly, this footprint does look eerily similar to the ones discovered by Eric Shipton. Back in 1951, a group of hikers were already making headlines for their attempt to scale Mount Everest. While up here, though, instead of snapping photographs of the breathtaking views, they took photos of what appear to be anatomically correct footprints of a strange humanoid-like creature, living at an incredibly high altitude in the region. The footprints were originally found by Michael Ward. Eric Shipton quickly took high-quality photographs of the prints, while placing down his ice pick next to it to help show the length and width of the incredible find. Many skeptics had argued the authenticity of the footprint, but research analysis have found anatomically correct details so perfect that it would have been impossible to fake. The footprint showed that the big toe of the creature appeared to be the perfect size and volume one would see in a creature of a massive size. The reason behind this is that it would need a toe of this size for adequate balance, and the depth of certain areas of the footprint showed a correct distribution of weight that the hikers would never have been able to accurately reproduce. Today, the photograph is seen as one of the most compelling pieces of evidence of the Yeti, and even helps to shed light into its weight, size, and evolution. What you make of this interesting photo, and have you ever come across a footprint similar to this one? Religion is a concept that many follow, with faith being heavily ingrained into our society, upbringing, and daily lives. Our religion, or lack thereof, can often be a huge contributing factor to make us who we are. Beneath the political conflict prompted through defending one's beliefs stem the origin of faiths, the miracles and the remarkable events that can only seem to be explained by religion. A variety of faiths are built upon the premise of gods, or more distinct higher powers, and are mainly supported by the miracles and happenings that can be understood through faith. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 religious events that are often deemed as mysteries. Who was Padre Pio? Saint Padre Pio was an Italian Capuchin friar and mystic. He was believed to have cured thousands of individuals with his miracles. Pio's sainthood was considered to be a controversial topic. As he grew up, the cult that Padre Pio was surrounded by was not looked upon fondly by the Vatican and was only accepted and valued after he passed away in 1968, age 81. Wasn't until 2002 that he was canonized by Pope John Paul II. This high level of debate was due to many people speculating that Pio was a fraud, faking the miracles he conducted. Though during his lifetime many considered him to be a fake, his reputation appears to largely have been redeemed since his passing. Even prior to being granted false sainthood, Padre Pio's former monastery, San Giovanni Rotondo, was a significant Catholic pilgrimage site, seeing north of 8 million visitors each year. Now, alongside many taking pilgrimages to the monastery, Saint Padre Pio's images were displayed in homes, shops, garages, and trucks throughout Italy. Padre Pio has stigmata upon his body, marks that in Christian tradition are believed to reflect the wounds of Jesus Christ when he was crucified. These provided problems to an extent for Pio. They were continuous trouble, constantly bleeding. Though some say this was evidence as to his connection to, or potentially being a reincarnation of, Jesus Christ himself. Some say that Pio knew prior to confessions what people planned on revealing, and was said to have wrestled with the devil when he was in his cell. Other rumors surrounding his lifetime included his odd sleeping patterns, resting for just 2 hours each night, alongside his limited food intake, reportedly eating less than enough to sustain a 1-year-old. Was said to have worked solidly without a day off for 50 years. He even was believed to have predicted the day he was going to pass away accurately decades prior to passing away. The Church officially recognized the legitimacy of 2 of his miracles. These were the curing of an 11-year-old from their coma and the recovery of a woman with lung disease. The significance of Saint Padre Pio in modern society has stemmed further. The Catholic Inquiry Office in 2007, London, named Saint Padre Pio the patron saint of stress relief and January blues. These connections between Pio and seasonal affective disorder stem from his perspective of life in spite of hardship. The National Shrine of St. Pio in North Wales sees the words, "But because he discovered that all of life has a purpose, he found a deep joy and lasting peace that he wanted to share with others." Padre Pio claims he was told these 12 things about the end of the world. Saint Padre Pio, who is believed to have held a close connection with Jesus Christ due to the marks on his body that appear to resemble Christ's crucifixion wounds, and also claimed to have communicated with Jesus himself. A letter written by Pio to his superior in 1959 details the messages Jesus conveyed. The sentiment behind these messages largely gave a pessimistic and unnerving description of humankind. The points made follow the themes that mankind is deteriorating, and the effects humans are having on Earth is overwhelmingly disastrous. Christ supposedly foreshadowed and gave warnings as to the significant events yet to come to Earth. Though the original letter contained hundreds of points, These are arguably 12 of the most poignant. 1. World is going to ruin. Men have completely abandoned the right path. It will be catastrophe. 2. Terrible things will come. I can no longer intercede for men. Man was created to love life and ended up destroying life. 3. When the world was entrusted to man, it was a garden. The man turned him into a poison full of poisons. Nothing now serves to purify the home of man. 4. Get ready to live 3 days in total darkness. These 3 days are very close. In these days you will remain as dead. The light will come back, but many men will never see her again. 5. Many men will run away in shock, but he will run without a goal. They will say there is salvation in the west, and people will run west, but they will fall into a furnace. 6. The earth will tremble and panic will be great. The earth is sick, many men will perish. 7. You are like ants because the time will come when men will take their eyes off for a crumb of bread. The shops will be looted, the warehouses will be stormed and destroyed. 8. A land will disappear, a great land. A country will be erased forever from maps, and with it, history, wealth, and men will be dragged through the mud. 9. Man's love for man has become an empty word. The wrath of God will not spare men of science, but men of heart. 10. I am desperate. I don't know what to do anymore for humanity to repent. If he continues on this path, God's tremendous anger will be unleashed like a tremendous lightning bolt. 11. A meteor will fall on the earth and everything will startle. It will be a disaster, much worse than a war. Many things will be cancelled. 12. Men will live a tragic experience. May will be a tragic month. With such ominous messages, the future of humanity is presented by presumably Christ, but also PO as bleak if we don't make drastic and prompt change. The precise dates for these occurrences are said to be hidden within the Bible. Many have turned to 2 Peter 3:2-14. The date of the Lord will come like a thief. We have time to fix the earth as a collective if PO is to be believed. With people fighting for equality and acting in a more environmentally conscious manner, this could be an indicator that society is slowly improving. Our Lady of Lourdes. The Lady of Lourdes is a Roman Catholic title for the Blessed Virgin Mary. Though the name Lady of Lourdes refers to a series of apparitions witnessed within France in 1858. On February 11, 1858, 14-year-old Bernadette Silvieres told her mother that a lady had spoken to her as she gathered firewood. This event was then followed by 17 further visitations to Bernadette by the apparition. The last sighting being on July 16, 1858, within just 6 months of the first. Saint Bernadette described the lady as a tiny maiden, no taller than herself, who was only 4'7". Bernadette continued to describe the lady as wearing a white robe. This was the uniform for the Children of Mary, which Bernadette was permitted to join after seeing the apparitions, though she had previously not been accepted due to her living in poverty. She also described the lady as having a rosary around her right arm. One notable sighting occurred on February 25th, the 9th time Bernadette had been visited by the lady. She was instructed to drink from a fountain by the grotto, though there was no fountain there. When she scratched at the ground, a spring quickly emerged. On March 1st, the water from the spring is said to have healed the dislocated arm of Catherine Latipi. This allowed her to regain mobility entirely. Another miracle occurred when Bernadette held a candle and traced the flame over the skin of her hand, but remained completely uninjured. The event was witnessed and confirmed by a medical professional. In various apparitions, the lady asked for a chapel to be built upon the site where she visited Bernadette. Though presaged, they would only consider this if the lady would share her name and allow the grotto's rose bush to bloom midwinter. Although the bush did not bloom, the lady told Bernadette she was the Immaculate Conception. The request was considered. In 1862, 4 years later, a bishop said they were justified in believing the reality of the apparition. Throughout the apparitions, only Saint Bernadette physically saw, heard, and interacted with Our Lady of Lourdes, though the physiological responses of Bernadette when she was in communication were visible to all. With each apparition, the crowds grew until thousands were present at any one time. This church is now the site of a major Marian pilgrimage location located in southern France. It's the most visited pilgrimage site in the world. Religion is a mysterious and complex concept. It's one that continues to cause confusion and conflict. Some events, however skeptical you are, raise questions and demand answers. From predictions as to our futures to healing miracles. The role of faith in our society is vital, regardless as to your beliefs. So what do you make of these religious mysteries? Many things might come to mind when you think of Yellowstone National Park. The incredible views, fresh air, and the supervolcano that lies beneath the park that could eradicate the majority of human population. But one thing you might not think of is the amount of people who put themselves in danger. Various officials have come forward and said that human behavior is just one of the things they have to worry about. They have said that in recent years people are putting themselves in harm's way, with them noting that one instance was when an individual tried to take a photograph of a bison only for the animal to charge the person and launch them into the air. The most recent incident that happened a few days ago has angered many people. 3 tourists had been charged and sentenced last week for boiling 3 chickens in a hot spring. Morgan Wathen, a Yellowstone spokesperson for Yellowstone National Park, said the following: "Who Idahoans and a Utah man had 2 cooking pots in a remote part of the park, where they dipped a pair of whole raw chickens into one of the geysers basins boiling geothermal fusions." End quote. When the men stood in front of the judge, one of them said their intention was only to make a dinner. As you can imagine, this didn't go down well with the judge. And all of the men who were aged in their 40s and 50s were given harsh sentences. The fines that all of them received were over $1,000. They also spent a few days in jail and have been banned from entering Yellowstone National Park. Park officials have said, though, that this behavior is not uncommon. And each year various people are jailed due to looting and hurting the park's wildlife. Those working in the park have said they've seen people wash their clothes in the hot springs and have even had people throw money into them, treating them as a sort of wishing well. One official said the following, though: "I wish people wouldn't do this, as such a thoughtless action can actually have long-term effects. For example, doing this can cause problems with vents." End quote. The national park statistics have said that this year's violations have tripled, meaning that over 120 are recipe made, which resulted in many of those individuals being banned from the national park. Although trying to cook chickens in a thermal spring may not sound like a big deal, officials have said it could have had a bad ending. They said that what many people don't understand is that the crust above the water is extremely thin, and there have been accounts of people falling into hot springs. In fact, earlier this year this happened to one woman. When the woman fell in, the national park was closed to visitors, so park officials have said she was there illegally. When she fell into the hot springs, she suffered various wounds. At the time, the national park had been shut down from visitors since the 24th of March, and although there had been talks about opening it back up to the public, officials have said there were still ongoing talks about what was going on. The woman in question ignored the warnings and was found walking on the roaming side of the park. At the time, the individual had not been identified, but she could be seen taking photographs close to Old Faithful. Despite falling in and injuring herself, the woman was able to pull herself out and drive around 50 miles. She was, however, stopped by a park ranger and airlifted to a burn center at Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center. Park officials have said that even though it's bad she was injured, she may face penalties for not following the rules. They said that everyone else has been doing a good job at staying away from the national park during this time. Surveillance footage has also been released of an individual walking 2 dogs, and it's been suggested this is the person that fell into the thermal spring. However, as of right now, this hasn't been confirmed. She entered the park on Tuesday morning. Visitors are also warned by park officials to stay on the boardwalks when walking close to the thermal features. Various people over the years have not listened and have ended up wounding themselves. One thing that officials have said is that activity has increased at Yellowstone, and this includes things such as new erupting vents and surface fractures. Due to this increased activity, park officials had to close a boardwalk in the popular upper basin. This is because getting hit with this water can injure people due to the heat. Researchers recently measured the temperature of the Old Faithful geyser, and they said its average temperature was 169 degrees. The park said the following on its website: water in hot springs can cause severe or fatal burns, and scalding water underlies most of the thin breakable crust around hot springs. Hot springs have injured or killed more people in Yellowstone than any other natural feature. End quote. One spokesperson said the following about the incident: "Today, are people behaving more smarter? My cynical streak says no, but we are better in explaining the reasons why we shouldn't do this than we used to be. Still, that doesn't stop people from causing trouble. In some ways, we are no better than the early park tourists, and the problem is there are far more of us." Many people are annoyed by this news, with the majority of people pointing out the instance that the chickens don't need to happen. People have access to things like ovens and restaurants, so things like this don't need to happen. The likelihood is that the individuals just wanted to see if this would work. Officials are also annoyed, as they've said that sometimes the park has to be closed for a reason and that it's frustrating when people don't abide by the rules, saying that all it does in the long run is hurt those who do aid, going on to say that people are also putting themselves in danger for no reason. As of right now, Yellowstone workers have told us to stay away from thermal springs and to listen for updates about certain areas of the park that may be closed off. So what do you guys make of the people that cooked a chicken in a thermal spring? Taking a photograph allows us to frame a moment in time, but sometimes when we go back to view those photographs, they reveal something that we didn't notice previously. This has happened many times in the past, and it's caused people to put forward fierce theories for what they captured. Some interesting ones are those of face swaps. A face swap is when someone's face is swapped with the face of another person, and this is usually done via an app. Some people then decide to take it further and do it with things like toys and animals. Then there's some that did it just on their own and obviously didn't expect to capture anything. The app works by detecting a face, so in theory it should only work if someone else is in the room with you. However, on numerous occasions it's happened where someone's face has been swapped to something creepy. One of the most eerie ones was posted by Gina Maycobb on Facebook. According to Gina, she claims that she was messing around with the face swap. She was alone at the time but managed to have her face swapped with something else in the room. She was holding a Care Bear at the time and attempted to have their faces switched, but the app detected something else in the room. One paranormal researcher said the following about the photograph: "When I see this photograph, it gives me chills. I think that whatever was detected by the app is dark. Whatever this thing is, it gives off a dark presence. I would be interested in hearing about the history of the building where the photograph was taken. It's very creepy." End quote. Not much information can be found about the photograph, with some saying that so far nobody has been able to fully debunk this image. Those who believe in the paranormal have said this is a demon, or skeptics have said it's likely a glitch. Some have said, though, they think this is real because you can see the outline of certain facial features. Another person said the following about the image: "This image creeps me out as I had something similar happen. I was taking a photograph with my sister, but instead of picking up on my sister, the app picked up on something else in the background. Whatever it was, it had a completely dark face with red eyes. We looked around the room for what could have possibly caused it, but found nothing. After this, I never used the app again." End quote. Throughout history, there's been reports of paranormal entities. All cultures talk about the paranormal in the afterlife in one form or another. And even to this day, millions of people believe in the paranormal. From a scientific perspective, it's said that what people are seeing is nothing more than natural phenomena. What are minds playing tricks on us? One of the issues is that many of us haven't encountered anything paranormal, so it's hard to judge or give an opinion on something that we haven't witnessed. However, those who have said it's changed their life and the way they view the world, and that we share this world with mysterious entities. In recent years, paranormal researchers have given names to certain entities. For example, the poltergeist is said to be a type of ghost that's able to harm people and even move objects around them. The shadowed people will appear and disappear before people, and they seem to be made out of nothing but a shadowy substance. Interestingly, it's said the paranormal isn't just bound to humans. A black dog is often described as a demonic entity in British folklore. The black dog is said to be a nocturnal ghost and in some cases a shapeshifter. It's hugely associated with the devil and is described as being a hellhound or a ghost. The appearance of a black dog is often regarded as a sign of death. The general physical features of a black dog or a ghost dog resembles that of a normal dog. However, it's much bigger in size and has glowing red eyes. The dog has often been associated with thunderstorms, crossroads, ancient pathways, and places of execution. The exact origins of this paranormal entity are not known. However, it's been a part of European mythology for years now. Throughout Europe, dogs have been associated with death, and it's believed that black dogs have an evil nature. In some legends, warlocks and witches seem to possess the power of summoning black dogs for their support. Different cultures and different countries seem to have their own versions of animal ghosts and black dog legends. However, in most cultures, black dogs are considered to be pets of evil entities. Ghost ships are also said to exist. According to popular beliefs, ghost spirits and other paranormal entities tend to reside at places that are far from human populations. This makes oceans and the numerous small islands that lie in them an ideal place for such entities. Throughout history, many sailors have reported seeing strange phenomena in different parts of the ocean. However, there is one phenomenon that's happened over and over again, and yet it can't be explained by anyone. Over the past couple of centuries, there have been a number of reports of ghost ships sailing around the world. Some of the most famous ghost ships include the Octavius, Flying Dutchman, and the Mira Celeste. There have been many theories about ghost ships. Some theories point to sea pirates taking down crew members and stealing their belongings to mysterious circumstances that can't be explained. However, all theories have been dismissed because of any lack of credible evidence, and to this day no one can say for sure what happened to some of the most famous ghost ships in history. There is one theory that holds an unknown. It's believed that some mysterious paranormal entity resides in the deepest pockets in some of the most isolated islands in the world, and sometimes this paranormal entity preys on the crew of ships that travel nearby. It's believed that it preys on all the crew members until they pass away. Not only this, but it's said by some that the entity will ensure the ship reaches its destination, so that people can see what it's done. Paranormal is debated, but eyewitnesses stand by what they've seen and say that this subject needs to be taken more seriously. So what do you make of this creepy photograph? Do you think it shows a demon, or do you think it's just a glitch? Although humans have done a great job at exploring various regions on our planet, two that are still relatively unknown are that of the oceans and jungles. Today, researchers are still finding evidence of lost civilizations under the dense jungle growth, helping to give us an insight into previously unknown artifacts. Today, things like cloud technology is being used to help us navigate our way through these, with scientists saying that this technology is helping us to uncover worlds we previously didn't know existed. For example, back in 2018, over 60,000 Mayan ruins were uncovered in Guatemala. To give you an idea of how dense the jungles is in this area, one archaeologist stated that one of the finds was made within 150 feet, but due to the thick vegetation they never spotted it. It's not just lost civilizations and artifacts that lie beneath our world's jungles. Various unknown species of animals are still being discovered today, with researchers saying that every year thousands of new species are being discovered, showing us that there's still much to learn about our natural world. Then there's reports made by people who allegedly encounter creatures known as cryptids. These are animals that are not recognized by science, with some of the most famous ones being that of Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster. One interesting cryptid that's said to reside deep within the Congo is that of the Mkele-Membe. Due to the amount of strange creatures reported from this region, it's led some to name this location as Earth's real-life Jurassic Park. The Mkele-Membe, when translated, means the one who stops the flow of rivers. It is a mysterious creature that's been mentioned in different stories by the people who live in the Congo River Basin. These people have the most contact with this creature and are said to have encountered it many times. Mkele-Membe is often described as a half-dinosaur, half-elephant, and is claimed by people to live in Lake Tele near the Congo River in Africa. No scientific proof has been found that such an animal ever existed, but that hasn't stopped various reports coming onto this area. It's used as a reference by some researchers to prove that dinosaurs and humans coexisted, or that dinosaurs somehow managed to survive in the modern day. Mkele-Membe has been described as an elephant-sized creature, with smooth, brownish-gray skin, a long, flexible neck, and a long tail that's as powerful as a crocodile's tail. It's perhaps best known for leaving behind its large footprints, which are known for having 3 claws and leaving deep impressions in the ground. These can be found throughout the swampy jungles of Africa. Over the past 3 centuries, native pygmies and Western explorers have described how the creature used to live. This animal fed on the nuts-like fruit of a riverbank plant and kept to the deep pools and subsurface areas, like the caves underwater and the unexplored regions of the forest. A recent expedition has shown that these stories have been told for a long time and that the locals very much believe that this creature is real and not a myth. One of the researchers on the team said that it may have been a dinosaur like Brontosaurus, which modern science says has been extinct for 70 million years. The same researcher, Roy Mackel, had gone deep into the central swamps of the Congo, where it was believed that the animal lived. Interestingly, he was able to come back with a photograph of a footprint that's believed to belong to the Mkele-Membe. The Forbidden Swamp region is located at the center of the Congo, and it covers an average area of 49,000 square miles, which is as large as New York. The natives told the missionaries where the Soropo dinosaur lived after the missionaries had shown them the animal. They had known about the mysterious animal that lived alongside the rivers and inside the deep pools, but did not know that it was a sauropod dinosaur until the missionaries told them. This dinosaur-like creature is said to feast on the vegetables and fruits of the jungles. One thing that's noted is that it doesn't get along with hippos, and various tribe members have seen these two animals battle it out. In 1999, Sunday, Times of London reported that the people of the Kabanga tribe had managed to take down one of these creatures. Once captured, it was reported that the tribe killed it. In the fall of 1981, Herman Reducitors led a team to Italy, and it said they returned with items belonging to this ancient creature. This included things like footprint cars, droppings, and a mysterious sound which couldn't be pinned to any of the local wildlife. Reports of Mkele-Membe go way back to the 18th century, and since 1980, over 25 expedition teams have been sent in search for the mysterious animal. In 2018, another expedition was sent with DNA experts to look for clues for the creature. They found nothing that could help them track down the animal, but interestingly, they did discover a new kind of algae. Some have said there's still many creatures and organisms on this planet that we don't know about. Discover Africa purchased a documentary from an independent young crew in 2016. The documentary showed how the crew spent 4 weeks gathering information from different tribes, and this was with the sole purpose of trying to find the existence of such an animal. Numerous natives believed in its existence, while some said the last of the species had died out at least a decade ago. Gathering evidence of this creature has been tough. The tribe native to the Congo region that reported the creature claimed to have hunted them down, further saying they wanted to eradicate them from the area due to their growing fears, its aggression, and its history of attacks. The last reported sighting of the creature was in Kenya, though many experts believe that if the creature did at one time exist, then it's long been extinct for a few thousand years given the lack of fossil record. However, the tribe reported that the last of the creatures to be killed was back during the 1930s, with claims about a man that removed the horn from the body of the creature and holds it in his possession. This man, however, has not come forward with the horn due to fears it will be taken away. Further information about the creature has not been released, and the only reliable information to be found on it is that of the evidence and work gathered by Dr. Roy P. Mackal, who describes the creature in his 1987 publication of his book, A Living Dinosaur. With that being said, locals still talk about the creature, and to this day stories are still coming out of this region. One of the most interesting things about this report is that the locals didn't know it was a dinosaur and were not educated in dinosaurs. They weren't going around claiming that dinosaurs were still alive, but rather describing a creature they'd seen on numerous occasions. It wasn't until the guides and researchers explained to them that dinosaurs were no longer alive that they understood why they were so interested. Regardless, they didn't tell them this information until after they had drawn the image. The image in question was drawn when researchers asked them what the creature looked like. This drawing included a large bulky body, a long neck and a long tail. It also had large sauropod-like fins. After this drawing and after talking to the locals, this only caused more confusion. The team of researchers were hoping to go to the region and easily explain what the natives were seeing. It was thought that what the tribe was encountering was local wildlife. However, one of the tribe members said they know the local wildlife, and they wouldn't confuse it with this creature. Furvis saying that this animal has been in this region for many years, and that the people don't like to disturb it. Some of the best evidence we have of this creature are those of the giant footprints, which are known for having 3 claws and leaving deep impressions in the ground. Various locals have reported finding these in the region, and say they can't match them to any of the local wildlife. The reports of finding these tracks follow a similar theme. A local or an expedition stumble across large tracks that usually measure around 40 to 95 centimeters, or 1.5 to 3.5 feet in diameter. The creature's footprints are also spread out, showing researchers that this creature is big. It's not just the Michel Bembe that's been reported from this region. Another creature that's feared by the locals is that of the Amelintica. The Amelintica is said to be a hostile creature and has allegedly been witnessed harming the local wildlife. The locals of the Congo have given this creature the nickname of the elephant killer. It's said to be very ferocious and will take on anything that gets in his way. It's been observed taking down the larger creatures that live in this region. And what's interesting is that tribes have said you can't find large animals where this creature lives. They say this is because they don't want to go near the Amelintica, because if they do, they will be taken down on the spot. The Amelintica is claimed to be around the size of an African bush elephant, brownish to gray in color with a heavy tail. Early reports gave detailed accounts of this creature using its tail to take down its prey. Humans would also have to keep their distance as the creature had a great eyesight and could see prey coming from a long way away. Those who have seen this creature have described it as having a bulky body and stumpy legs. The color of the creature varies depending on who you talk to, but most say it's gray. Interestingly, the Amelintica spends the majority of its time underwater. Tribes over the years have feared going into the water in case they encounter this creature. It doesn't like to be disturbed, and when you get too close to it, you can hear it uttering a low vocalization. From drawings and descriptions by the locals, the Amelintica seems to resemble a type of dinosaur, although some have suggested it's a descendant of the Triceratops. Others have suggested it's an aquatic rhinoceros. Cryptozoologists have said it's one of the most interesting cryptids out there, mainly because it's been witnessed by so many people. Over the last 10 years, there have been some eyewitness testimonies about this creature. How true they are is another question. Explorers who have seen the creature have said it looks like a rhino, but with a much larger horn and a darker colored body. They say it's more hostile than a typical rhino and doesn't like it when you venture too close. They are said to come out for only a few hours of the day, and depending on who you are, some have suggested it's actually a herbivore, feasting on the dense plants that scatter the Congo. question that many people are left with is, what is this creature? The locals are perhaps some of the best people to talk about the local wildlife. After all, they're the ones that spent the most amount of time in this region. They seem to be under the impression that this creature resembles that of a small sauropod, a large dinosaur that lived millions of years ago, even going on to say that every so often they discover large footprints that they attribute to the beast. Skeptics point out that how could such a large creature live in this region without being detected? It's reported to be anything from 20 to 40 feet in length, so this creature wouldn't be hard to miss also. If this creature is real, there would have to be a big enough population to keep themselves going every year. It seems that scientists have been finding the existence of long thought to be extinct species. Some of these include marine animals that were roaming the oceans back during the time of the dinosaurs. For example, one of these is known as the coelacanth. This creature was swimming around in our oceans hundreds of millions of years ago. As scientists said, they became extinct around 80 million years ago. But in 1938, a living coelacanth was discovered in the Indian Ocean, near the southern coast of Africa. Incredibly, these creatures have been living since the time of the dinosaurs. With this much evidence gathered by the scientific community, it's no surprise then that it appears there are large stories involving the existence of real-life encounters with ancient creatures even in the modern day. It's creatures like the coelacanths led some to believe that there's a small possibility that the creature is out there. After all, unless we've searched every region of the Congo, we can't say for sure that the creature doesn't exist. Skeptics will tell you there's no way such a large creature exists, and that by now we should have more evidence of it. Perhaps time will tell whether we're able to track down more evidence of this creature. Maybe it's a new, undiscovered species that's not yet known to science. After all, thousands of new species are discovered every year. So perhaps it's just a matter of time before we make a breakthrough in this case. So what do you guys make of the Michel Bembe? Do you think it's a genuine creature? If not, then what do you think the locals witnessed? Discovery is the lifeblood of existence. Innate in every human, there is a sense of exploration that makes science's most recent discoveries incredibly exciting. The vast frontier of space is home to countless discoveries that we could soon uncover, and scientists work tirelessly to better understand our place in the universe. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 exciting space discoveries. NASA discovers new world. Finding new planets isn't quite the big deal as it used to be in the medieval ages. While humans may have initially believed that the universe began and ended with the solar system, we now know that the universe is home to 10 to the power of 25 planets, a truly staggering number. That said, it isn't very often that we discover a planet that shares the same coveted characteristics of Earth. Planets in the often described Goldilocks zone, where it's not too hot or too cold, are a keen interest for scientists and the general public, as they point to the possibility of future colonies or even different forms of life. In January of 2020, NASA announced their discovery of one of these hospitable planets. The discovery was made by NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite, also known as TESS. The Earth-sized planet orbits within the habitable Goldilocks zone of its nearby star. This ideal location means that it could be possible that conditions would allow for liquid water on the planet's surface. The planet, named TOI 700D, was confirmed using NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope. NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey Satellite has discovered its first Earth-sized planet in its star's habitable zone. The range of distances where conditions may just be right to allow the presence of liquid water on the surface. Scientists confirmed the find called TOI 700D using NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope and are using the discovery to point towards other Earth-like planets. Paul Hertz, Astrophysics Division Director at NASA, said, "Tests were designed and launched specifically to find Earth-sized planets orbiting nearby stars. Planets around nearby stars are easiest to follow up with larger telescopes in space and on Earth. Discovering TOI 700D is a key science finding for TESS. Confirming the planet's size and habitable zone status with Spitzer is another win for Spitzer as it approaches the end of science operations this January. The planet's star, TOI 700, is small and cool. It is a dwarf star and is located in the Dorado constellation, just above 100 light-years away. The star is approximately 40% of the mass of our Sun and has roughly half of our Sun's surface temperature. Scientists know that TOI 700 has 3 planets, and the team originally believed the star was much more similar to our Sun, with the planets appearing to be much larger and hotter than they actually are. When the error was discovered, scientists noticed that the accurate readings indicated that TOI 700d would fit comfortably into the zone hospitable to life. Emily Gilbert, a graduate student at the University of Chicago, said, "When we corrected the star's parameters, the sizes of its planets dropped, and we realized the outermost one was about the size of Earth and in the habitable zone. Additionally, in 11 months of data, we saw no flares from the star, which improves the chances TOI 700d is habitable and makes it easier to muzzle its atmospheric and surface conditions." The planet closest to the star, named TOI 700b, is incredibly similar to Earth's size. The planet is most likely rocky and finishes its orbit every 10 days. The next planet, TOI 700c, completes its orbit every 16 days, is just over 2.5 times the size of Earth, and is probably mostly made up of gases. The final planet, TOI 700d, is the one which shows the most promise towards habitability. The planet is estimated to be 20% bigger than Earth and takes in 80% of the energy that the Sun sends to Earth. Each one of these planets is believed to be tidally locked, meaning that they make one rotation per orbit, meaning one side is perpetually in daylight. NASA touches down on asteroid Bennu. Asteroids are not simple celestial bodies to engage with. Compared to planets and the size of the universe, they're like tiny atoms in the sky. So you may be surprised to know that NASA recently touched down on an asteroid Bennu, and the organization discussed the exciting mission in October of 2020. Bennu is an ancient asteroid that is currently on course more than 700 million Mars away from Earth. The asteroid is in good condition, and it gives scientists the chance to see what the solar system was like when it was first formed billions of years in the past. The asteroid could also point towards celestial impacts that may have dropped off materials on Earth. On the 20th of October in 2020, NASA's OSIRIS-RX sample collection mission performed a successful touch and go, also known as a tag maneuver. At 1:50 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on that fateful day, NASA's OSIRIS-REx used its high-end thrusters in order to position itself around Bennu's asteroid orbit. Carefully navigating towards the high-speed asteroid, the machine extended the shoulder, elbow, then the wrist of its 11-foot sampling arm. This long arm is named the touch-and-go sample acquisition mechanism. After descending around half a mile towards Bennu's surface for 4 hours, the OSIRIS spacecraft began what it called the checkpoint burn. This maneuver is just one of 2 that allow the shuttle to reach its target, the sample collection site known as Nightingale. From NASA's data, they believe that the tag event was successful and went as expected, though it will be some time before the team working on the project will be able to confirm how many samples spacecraft collected. The image of Bennu that we can turn to in order to visualize the asteroid is a composite made from 2 images taken by the OSIRIS-REx spacecraft. The image depicts Bennu ejecting some kind of particles away from its surface, and the image was produced using cropping, brightness adjustment, as well as contrast editing. Gliese 1061 Gliese 1061 is the 20th closest star to our Sun, a red dwarf star with a mass only 0.12 times the size of our planet's star. In 2019, researchers from the Red Dots collaboration announced that they had discovered 3 exoplanets that orbit Gliese 1061. More interestingly, the planet furthest away from the red dwarf, Gliese 1061d, sits in the habitable zone, the perfect space for liquid water. The Red Dots project aims to find planets made up of rock, specifically those that orbit stars close by to our solar system. Gliese 1061, also called GJ 1061, LHS 1565, and LTT 1702, attracted the interest of the project due to only being 12 light-years away from Earth. The star is fairly inactive and is roughly 7 billion years old. Speaking of the star, Professor Stefan Dreisler from the University of Göttingen in Germany said, GJ 1061 has very similar properties to Proxima Centauri, but activity indices point to lower levels of stellar activity. These once undiscovered planets were found thanks to a measuring technique known as the radial velocity method. This method centers around measurements of wobbles of parent stars that can indicate the presence of orbiting planets. The team made use of readings from the high-accuracy radial velocity planet searcher spectrograph located at the La Silla Observatory in Chile. We report the detection of 3 planet candidates, Gliese 1061b, C and D, with periods of 3.2, 6.7, and 13 days, which is close to 124-period commensurability, the team said. The minimum masses of the 3 planets range from 1.4 to 1.8 Earth masses. With an orbit only spanning 13 days, scientists are most interested in Gliese 1061d's potential of hosting the necessary environment for life. Gliese 1061d, with a mass of around 1.7 times that of Earth, receives a similar amount of energy as Earth receives from the Sun, the team said. Consequently, it lies within the liquid water habitable zone of the star and has a similar equilibrium temperature to Earth. This discovery is just one of recent Earth-like planets that astronomers have managed to spot in the distant skies, pointing towards the idea that there may be hundreds, if not thousands, of Earth-like planets in the universe. Perhaps if we are fortunate, one may just have the characteristics needed for life to thrive. But what do you make of these recent space discoveries?